The other day, I was about to buy a shirt, and a friend said to me, "Don't buy those. Those are made by child laborers in some foreign sweatshop." And I had that moment where I tried to still justify buying it. I thought to myself, yeah, but the kid didn't even write "help me" on the back. He's not even trying. You know, give me a telephone number, a map, something. How am I going to find you, little buddy? But we're such a complacent, apathetic kind of people, they could actually come out with those shirts, and people would still be walking around like, "Oh, you got the Help Me shirt? That's awesome. Oh, yeah, I got the I'm hungry. Yeah, my shoes are made by My Fingers Hurt. My baseball cap is made by Go F yourself, stupid Westerners. I give this hat crabs." In fact, I'm pretty sure that's where they got the name Banana Republic. It's just a riddle from some kid trying to tell us where he was. But sometimes life imitates comedy, and notes like that from sweatshop laborers are showing up. Several have been found in Primark stores in the UK, and last year a Kmart Halloween decoration was found to include a "please help us" note from a prison laborer in China. The man was in prison for the crime of belonging to the wrong religion, and he was forced to spend every day making half-price plastic Halloween skulls for lifeless suburban American kings and queens of mediocrity. And despite the fact that that skull will not biodegrade for like 10,000 years, probably choking out a dozen porpoises over that time, the owners will throw it out after a single use, a single evening of making 6-year-olds mildly nervous. So then the slave laborer has to make another stale, insipid decoration for next year. That laborer could retire if people would just hang on to their $3 holiday from year to year. Entire civilizations worth of craptastic plastic fiestas are being tossed into the trash bin every month. You know, there are 13-year-olds mining precious metals in Africa to make your cell phone work, and they could retire too, except the planned obsolescence means they have to dig up new metal for your new phone every 8 months so that you can receive urgent text messages about whether Betsy got a boob job. And of course she did, and that's okay. It's her choice and her body. And slave labor is only one of the problems of these products sold in your favorite stores. As you probably know, a factory in Bangladesh collapsed last year, killing over 1,100 employees. Many well-known U.S. brands are still refusing to sign a safety agreement that simply insists on safe working conditions for the people being eaten alive by globalization. So what's the answer? I'm not trying to be a hypocrite here. It's nearly impossible to find clothing made in fair conditions. I don't know what to wear anymore. What are we supposed to wear? You know, this past week, I covered myself in free-range orange peels and underwear made from tofu and termites. And they kicked me out of the dance club for smelling like Charlie Sheen on a downswing. But we could begin by paying attention to the biggest brands and how they treat their workers. It wouldn't take much pressure for you know, to make a corporation like Walmart realize it's of great benefit to their bottom line to sign the safety agreement. And if that fails, I know how to end child labor. Let's send some of our good old American children to the sweatshops to teach the Bangladeshi children how to be lazy a-holes, right? And the boss would be like, "Make the shoes," and the kid's like, "Bite me, you're not my real boss." Coming to you from Washington, D.C., this is Redacted Tonight. Welcome to Redacted Tonight! How's my very intelligent audience doing? I'm Lee Camp, your host. Let's take the news from behind. This week, something important happened in Florida, and no, it wasn't that rising sea levels from climate change circumcised the entire state. No, it also wasn't that Florida took that 1,250-pound BP oil spill tar mat found on a beach, I'm not kidding, and used it to create a cool ocean skate park. Oh, that would be totally radical, though. It would. I can't believe we're literally paving our oceans now. You know, no wonder the marine life is having trouble. They haven't yet grown wheels. Seriously, and you think our immigration problem is bad now? Wait until BP has fully paved the Gulf of Mexico and immigrants are just sprinting across it. Anyway, those are not the important things. This week, a Florida judge decided that Marissa Alexander could not use the stand your ground defense in her retrial. She's the woman who could serve 60 years in prison for firing a warning shot at her physically abusive husband. But apparently, stand your ground still only applies to paranoid men shooting black people. No one can be quite sure how Alexander's retrial in December will turn out, but it doesn't look good for her. There are two key points of evidence against her. One, she's African American, which is never good in a courtroom. All right? In fact, in our criminal justice system, statistically speaking, the only thing worse for a defendant than being African American is walking into court and peeing on the judge's bench. And the second strike against Alexander is that she's a woman. Women have come a long way in our country, all right? They vote, they can speak in public, but are we really ready to let them stand their ground? That sounds like a bridge too far. It's probably a good idea to reserve the right to fire guns in a random and threatening manner for men who, let's face it, finally deserve a leg up. Moving on, a groundbreaking study out of Melbourne shows that kids with gay parents are happier and healthier than kids with straight parents. But that's not really fair because half of those families had no men at all. And men are dickheads, all right? So, of course kids with a dad are unhappy. That's what dads do. That's their job. In fact, in any study of anything, the side that has this guy will always be the side that is less happy, all right? That's how it works. It might also be because gay parents tend to put a lot of thought into kids, whether they want kids, how many they want. Whereas most straight couples, the planning comes down to, should I have another Long Island iced tea? Damn straight I should. I don't have any kids. What am I worried about? Speaking of decisions, Edward Snowden's decision to leak thousands of classified documents angered a lot of people, but now many reputable people and organizations are beginning to praise his courage. Most recently, the head of the United Nations Human Rights Commission called Snowden a defender of human rights and has stated that the U.S. should abandon efforts to prosecute him. Here to explain what the future holds is senior intelligence correspondent John F. O'Donnell. How are you, John? How you doing, John?
Don't use my real name, Lee. Come on. I'm totally exposed right now. Snowden has inspired me. I've become a leaker.
John, you're a whistleblower?
Yes, I've been blowing and leaking all over the place. And I told you not to use my real name. Call me by my covert leaker name, Bingo Excalibur.
I'm not calling you Bingo.
Wait. Are those cameras? This is being filmed? What the f***, man? Come on!
Of course they're cameras. It's a television show. You're on it every week. How could you not know that?
Wait, this stuff actually goes on TV? Really? I thought this was just some sort of a elaborate therapy session you set up for yourself to try and control your rage issues. What channel are we even on?
RT America.
I'm not familiar.
Moving on. What's the latest with Snowden, all right? Would you say there's a general consensus that he's a hero, you know, revealing truth about the largest surveillance state in history?
Absolutely. Snowden's getting all sorts of righteous support now. He was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize by 2 Norwegian politicians. What? And he got standing ovations at both South by Southwest and the 2004 TED Talk conference. I'm so jealous, I can barely breathe!
John, you don't need to be jealous.
Bingo Excalibur, bro. Come on.
Fine. Bingo. All right, Bingo. You understand, the reason you shouldn't be jealous is because Snowden has sacrificed a lot to leak the truth, all right? He about our government's unconstitutional spying. He can't come to the U.S. without being put on trial for espionage. He could spend the rest of his life in jail if he did that.
No, I know, I get it. And at the same time, the director of national intelligence, James Clapper, blatantly lied to Congress about domestic surveillance, and he gets to walk free. I've actually got the perfect TED Talk prepared for this.
You've got a TED Talk?
Finally, somebody's interested in it. In my TED Talk, I would explain in detail, Lee, the ins and outs of how to sneak into Congress and slip liquefied psilocybin mushrooms into their coffee cups.
You want to get Congress high?
Yeah, because once Congress starts tripping, all their third eyes will open. And they'll realize they're committing spiritual suicide by sucking on the teat of the corporations. And instead, they'll start actually representing the people to create a more humanistic, empathetic world.
That's lovely. It's also insane.
I agree. Insightful, noble, smart, articulate, nuanced, enlightening. Insane.
What?
Fine, Lee, I'll reveal my leaks to you. I get it. Just play it cool. Turn off the cameras.
No.
Okay. So, I found a report that the CIA lied to the Department of Justice about how pervasive the use of torture was in their post-9/11 enhanced interrogation program. They even took credit for extracting information by torturing detainees that in reality they got through less invasive measures. Now do you understand why I'm scared for my life?
Wait a second, I remember that story. That was widely reported. That's not a leak.
Damn it! I was hoping you didn't hear about that one. Okay, how about this one? Back in the 80s, the Reagan administration secretly sold weapons to Iran and used that money to fund the Contras to fight an illegal war in Nicaragua.
That's the Iran-Contra affair. Everyone knows about that.
You really have your finger on the pulse, don't you? Okay, but did you know that I found evidence of Beyonce that
Next.
All right! Those first 3 leaks were cover leaks for the real leak. I have irrefutable evidence that somebody on the Redacted Tonight team is not who they say they are. We've been compromised, Lee.
Compromised.
Feast your eyes on the truth.
What is that?
It's Redacted Tonight correspondent Sam Sachs. He's in the Illuminati, and I'm a hero for exposing it.
That's clearly been photoshopped. And who's in the picture? Is that Oprah, Mr. Clean?
Yeah, it's a crazy world, man. I knew it! I knew it!
What? It's wear your pajamas to work day, John.
Yeah, John, you didn't get the memo?
What?
This is my slippers. It's-
What memo? This doesn't make any sense. No! No! No!
Everybody! We have to go to break, but before we do, check out this advanced copy of a rather interesting new advertisement.
Hi, I'm Clint Myers, the new tech developer at ALEC. Recently, ALEC brought me on to find a new, innovative way for conservative lawmakers around the country to more easily meet up with companies and corporations that really turn them on. Well, I have some exciting news. We here at ALEC have come out with Liquor, a new app that uses the Tinder technology but applied to lawmakers and corporations. Here's how it works. When a lawmaker opens up his Liquor, he can swipe through a number of corporate representative profiles, each with their own photo and a list of interests. Here's Rex from ExxonMobil. He likes weekend brunching, watching Mad Men, and spilling oil on marine life. And he's offering up custom-made legislation that allows oil and gas companies to keep secret the chemicals they use in fracking. Now, if a lawmaker thinks Rex is his kind of man, he clicks the heart. If he doesn't like what he sees, he clicks the X. Now, let's assume a lawmaker and a corporation both click hearts. Well, that's when Liquor sets up a rendezvous between the two so that they can collaborate, have a cocktail, discuss campaign donations, and then over working people and the environment with deregulatory policies, thus doing for democracy what Grindr and Tinder already did for dating. So I ask you, members of the political and business classes in America, what are you waiting for? Check out ALEC's new app, Liquor. Don't you want to over the middle class? Yeah.
Five seconds. And over the mic is all fuel to go.
Did you know the press is the only industry specifically mentioned in the Constitution?
Stand by.
That's because a free and open press is critical to our democracy.
Track Alpha. Roll Alpha.
In fact, the single biggest threat facing our nation today is the corporate takeover of our government and our press.
Stand by, camera one.
We've been hijacked by a handful of powerful transnational corporations that will profit by destroying what our founding fathers once built up. I'm Tom Hartman, and on this show, we reveal the big picture of what's actually going on in the world. We go beyond identifying the problem.
We try to fix it.
Rational debate and a real discussion of the critical issues facing America.
Stand by on camera. Go.
Ready to join the movement? Then welcome to the big picture.
Welcome back! All right. So, people often ask for solutions to our broken democracy in which the candidate who spends the most on their campaign wins 93% of the time in the House and 89% of the time in the Senate. Well, here's a solution I hadn't heard of until recently. And let me preface this by saying I'm a big fan of paper ballots for voting because, gasp, there's proof that you actually voted. Your vote is tangible. It has actual substance rather than being like a dream of a fart or a Jennifer Aniston movie. And sometimes, what's the difference? But that being said, I also accept that paper in general is going the way of, say, pencils or novelty stress relievers or bobblehead dolls or prop comedy. It's simply inevitable that one day we'll switch over to a high-tech democracy. I imagine 30 years from now, using paper for the most important decisions of our society will be like showing up to NASCAR with a crank-engine automobile. And once we get to that point, that people can finally vote with a push of a button from their own home without it being hacked, just like we trust internet banking to take care of money online. At that point, we can switch to what some are calling Democracy 4.0. In this system, we vote on every important issue, rather than just voting for a candidate. If a certain number of people vote on an issue, then the elected representative is not needed at all. If not enough people vote, then the representative will be the one who decides. We will finally be closer to a democracy than a republic. And it brings democracy to the people, because when you leave important decisions in the hands of a small group of wealthy elites, like we do now, you end up with Lockheed Martin getting billions to build bombs, and Bank of America getting bailouts, and your evening filled with Jennifer Aniston movies. It's a dystopian hellhole. Speaking of technology, there's a new billboard in San Francisco that threatens that workers will all be replaced by iPads if the minimum wage is increased. Scary argument, indeed, except that replacing workers with automated machines is already happening anyway. Whether or not workers demand fair wages, they'll be replaced with iPads, Google Glass, self-driving cars, even jobs you think are secure, like the clown who paints kids' faces at birthday parties. He's being replaced by a face paint gun that fires rainbow colors at children in a magically terrifying manner. It's like the corporate goons are so out of touch and doing so much evil crap that they don't even know what to threaten us with anymore. They're like, you plebes better stop your bitching about minimum wage or we'll ship your jobs overseas to workers we hardly pay. Oh, we're already doing. We'll sell mortgages to Wall Street and no one will know who owns them, and then we'll foreclose on you anyway. We're already doing that too. Is there anything we're not already doing? We'll take your children and turn them into zombies with manipulative advertisements and food with no nutritional value that just turns their brains into mush. Oh, for the love of God! Is there anything we're not already? We'll give you good jobs. How about that? Not doing that yet. The same group that did that awful billboard has another one consisting of an image of Miley Cyrus saying she's twerked off, not an expression, by the idea of raising the minimum wage, where they purchased Miley's photo, but they didn't ask her for permission to do this. Man, I had no idea that's allowed. Okay, if we can do that, that's amazing, because I'd like to introduce you to my new line of billboards featuring non-consensual spokespeople. Let's see, we have, why is Selena Gomez so pissed off? Because she hates bans on hydrofracking and says chemicals in your water builds character. Why is Barbara Walters so grumpy? Because she just wants to attend a quality dogfight without all the legal restrictions. You know? And why does John Boehner have a Boehner? Because in Ohio, what a man does with a horse in the privacy of his own barn is no one's business but his own. Now to Capitol Hill, the central nervous system in our unique American democracy. And by central nervous system, I mean mucus-filled nostril. So, what's going on this month on Capitol Hill? Is there a breakthrough on immigration reform? Of course not. The closest they've gotten to immigration reform is agreeing to build a wall across the recently paved Gulf of Mexico. Has a deal been reached to rebuild our collapsing infrastructure? No. The closest they've gotten to that is allotting $2 billion to build a wall across the recently paved Gulf of Mexico. But Capitol Hill is embroiled in a courtroom drama that makes Law & Order SVU look like Judge Judy. And I don't know what that means either. But Sam Sachs does, though. And he has the story on the Redacted Front Lines.
America is in a constitutional crisis. The Speaker of the House, John Boehner, is suing the President of the United States, accusing him of abusing executive powers.
And when there's conflicts like this between the legislative branch and the administrative branch, it's, in my view, our responsibility to stand up for this institution in which we serve.
So what is this conflict Speaker Boehner is referring to? To find out, I snuck into the House Rules Committee. It's in charge of drafting the resolution to sue President Barack Obama. 4 lawyers were on hand to advise, including hotshot constitutional expert Jonathan Turley, a fierce critic of executive power, who once called for war crimes charges to be brought against the Bush administration. So this is pretty serious. Are war-weary Democrats like George McGovern and Louise Slaughter behind this? They're sponsors of legislation to repeal the 2001 Authorization for Use of Military Force, the AUMF. Have they convinced the House to take action against President Obama's broad use of military force? After all, he's expanded the drone war without specific prior authorization from Congress. And in a recent Senate hearing, administration lawyers put forward a disturbingly broad interpretation of the president's Article 2 war powers.
If the 2001 AUMF was undone, can the president carry out the activities that he's carrying out right now?
Yes, I believe he could.
We could rely on the president's inherent constitutional authority.
So you wouldn't rely on the AUMF, he just has authority to do whatever.
Or maybe this is about something else. We know that the executive branch has used the NSA to spy on Americans, collecting massive amounts of data in direct violation of the First and Fourth Amendments. That includes members of Congress and the judiciary. We here at Redacted revealed the Scalia banana hammock photos just last week. Maybe it's something completely different, like Representative Tom Cole's ongoing troubles with the presidential dog Bo, who only does business in the congressman's office. The point is, President Obama is in serious trouble. From day one, he's faced an opposition party in Congress that said its top political priority was to deny him a second term.
Our top political priority over the next 2 years should be to deny President Obama a second term.
Which they failed at. But they're fairly certain they'll succeed in denying him a third term. So the only question left is, which issue do they sue him on?
The resolution that we are supposed to address here would authorize a lawsuit that would seek relief from alleged illegal or unconstitutional conduct in, quote, implementation of any provision of the Affordable Care Act.
Wait a second, the Affordable Care Act? As in Obamacare? This whole thing can't be... Wait, is this whole thing about Obamacare?
The suit we're talking about here, we're not suing the president because he lied about weapons of mass destruction and brought us into a war where thousands of Americans were killed and we almost bankrupted our treasury. We're focusing on a narrow provision of the Affordable Care Act.
You've got to be kidding me. Yes, Speaker of the House John Boehner chose the president's handling of Obamacare as the basis for his lawsuit. Specifically, he's suing over the way President Obama unilaterally changed the employer mandate, delaying its implementation by 1 year. Okay, so let me try to understand this. House Republicans have been waiting for something to come along, anything to come along that they can use to take down the Obama presidency. And then the president uses unauthorized military force around the world, he spies on everyone, etc. But rather than using any of that stuff, House Republicans use the president's decision to delay implementation of a law that they never wanted implemented in the first place as grounds for the lawsuit. Did I get that right? And Bo, he's just going to continue in Tom Cole's office? On top of all that, the lawsuit is destined for failure. House Republicans can't prove how they've been injured by the president's executive actions, thus they won't have any standing in any court. That's opposed to the countless number of Americans who have been harmed through spying and would have standing in court if Republicans decided to work with them to take on the Obama presidency. So this is mostly political theater. And when it comes down to it, a constitutional crisis is really only a crisis insofar as the two ruling parties in America disagree on it. But when it comes down to Obamacare, we know there's major disagreement between the two parties. which has taken the form of Democrats supporting delaying a provision they support, and Republicans opposing delaying a provision they oppose. And that is what ultimately could set the Constitution ablaze. Or at the very least, drive the news cycle for a few weeks, convincing Americans that the two parties are still significantly different, especially when they're each supporting things that they actually oppose. In Washington, D.C., Sam Sachs, Redacted Tonight. This place is just full of lunatics, I swear.
Well, as you know, we're better than all other shows, right? Aren't we, audience? Good. I'll start this show over. I will, if you guys. We're better than all other shows, which is why we have headlines from the future. Next Wednesday, it will come out. 70% of U.S. children now want to work their way out of student loan debt when they grow up. It's exciting times. Also, at the end of next week, you'll learn this in the papers. Anti-immigrant protesters made up mostly of undocumented ignorance. In mid-August, you'll read activists protest cartographic genital mutilation of Florida. That one got a little gross there. This coming Tuesday, the nation will learn right-wing insists stand-your-ground laws only apply to men and fetuses. And I think we actually have an image of that. Let's see. There he is. He has his mother's laser scope. And finally, apparently those thrown-out holiday decorations are getting around next week from a California newspaper. Tiger shark clearly unaware it has Halloween mask stuck to fin. And someone snapped a photo of that one, too, I think. Oh, God, that's perhaps the two most horrifying things that could ever come at you at once. A shark and Ronald Reagan. And those are your future headlines. All right. Recently, we asked you to tweet with the hashtag #FunWithFracking and tell us how you can most have fun with the many side effects of hydrofracking. The best one came from Jay Weichselbaum, who said, "Have trouble sleeping? Benzene exposure from fracking can cause drowsiness, dizziness, and unconsciousness. Fun with fracking." Well done, Jay. I usually just wrap a plastic bag around my head, so to each his own. And that is your unredacted news. This episode will be up any minute at youtube.com/RTAmerica or on Hulu. We're actually on Hulu at Redacted Tonight or leecamp.net. If you're curious about the sources, a lot of people are like, where did you get all that crazy information? If you're curious about the sources, go to facebook.com/Redacted Tonight to get those. Good night and keep fighting. Keep fighting, all right? Thank you.